What is up? Listen, guys, I've been watching a lot of MMA lately, and I think that these are the brightest prospects from Dana White's Contender Series Season 9. We've got Season 10 starting up tomorrow while this is being recorded, and I'm very excited, but I wanted to go over a lot of the fighters who've had a bit of time now to kind of dip their toes into the UFC's pool and, see where they're headed in terms of their careers. There's a lot of these fighters who have gone on and, they were very exciting prospects. A lot of people really rated, the Black Panther, or sorry, the Pink Panther, Curtis Campbell, and listen, didn't go very well for them. Same thing with Mandel Nalo. But for my honorable mentions, guys, I'm gonna start off with Juan Diaz. Great fighter. He had a very impressive win on the Contender Series. He was having a rough fight with that guy, but spinning elbow KO. He got him out of there badly. And then he went in there versus Malcolm Wellmaker as an underdog and proved to everybody that he belongs that spot in the UFC. Very impressive win, guys. I really rated his win over Malcolm Wellmaker. A lot of people are ready to call Malcolm Wellmaker this fraud, but even though he is lacking in some areas, he's still a good fighter. And Juan Diaz went out there and shut him down. So props to him. We got Tikoto, Marcio Barbosa. That dude he's very strong, very sharp striking, powerful. But he's only really went out there against Dennis Bazooka, so I don't rate too highly. But I think he's definitely a dude to look out for. Tommy Gant, another guy to look out for. Super active fighter, comes from a great camp. I like his approach to MMA. I love to see more from him. And I throw a women's MMA pick in there, Chanel Dyer. I know she lost her fight in the Contender Series, but she came back, got a win in the UFC. I think she has a lot of promise. So starting our top 10 guys, a lot of you guys might be very shocked because some people who consume this content, they're very big fans of this fighter. But I think Ivo Baranuski is my number 10. I know number 10 is still a good honor to have, guys, so don't flame me in the comments because Ivo isn't at the top. But I'm just not as high on Baranuski as a lot of other people are. I think that, as I've mentioned in the pros, he's a very powerful fighter. He's athletic, he's fast twitch. But I think that Ivo Baranuski is pretty much just a light heavyweight Mark Vologdin, and the only reason that he's gotten these wins is because he's fighting a very lackluster competition. Like, Ivo Aslan is not a very good fighter, and he gave a lot of Turkish issues to Ivo Baranuski in their fight. They were both getting dropped all over the place. Now, I'll give him his flowers because he goes out there and gets the KO win every time, 100%. But when it comes to the highest level, like, Alonzo Menifield, he's not the highest level of light heavyweight, but he's a very solid gatekeeper. I think he's going to give Ivo Baranuski a lot of issues in their fight. I just don't really think that, Iwo's frame combined with his willingness to just like grit down and throw big hooks and not really have any regard for any defense, it leaves a lot of question marks in my opinion. So he's ranked here at number 10 because he's definitely one of the fighters who's gone on to do the most for himself since the season of Dana White's Contender Series has wrapped up. Josh Hokit won't be on this list just because I don't think he really qualifies for this anymore. He's already pretty much into the top 5 of his division. So but yeah, I don't think Ivo Baranuski is doing shit, guys. But he's still number 10. Like, I think he's all right. At number 10, excuse me, at number 9 we've got Yakyaev. Another guy who a lot of people are very high on. I'm just not very high on these 205 prospects. I think it's a very weak division. One thing about Yakyaev, he has a very nice frame for the division. He's long, he's tall. I like his finishing instincts a lot. We've seen that in all of his fights so far, and he is kind of a dual threat. He can knock you out and he can submit you. I don't know how valid that's going to be against the highest level of the division, but against the cans it works. But as I've noted in the cons, he fought a juice box in his last fight. I'm not sure. And when he fought Brendison Ribeiro, Brendison Ribeiro is a can as well, but Ribeiro was giving Yakyaev, even though it was only momentary, he gave him a lot of issues on the feet in that fight. So I think that Yakyaev is definitely more promising than Baranuski just because of the frame. I think Ivo was at a very big disadvantage, but I'm still not that high on Yakyaev, but he still makes this list. At number 8, guys, I've got Baisinger Sasarkayev, Hamzat's teammate. Now, a lot of people really hate this guy, and I can understand it. In the octagon, he's like weirdly cocky. He talks a lot, and he hasn't really fought the competition or had the performances that's like really earned him the right to do any of that in the octagon. But I still think he's a technical fighter. He's a well-rounded finisher in the sense that, he submitted Jordan Santos and he's pretty much knocked out everybody else. but he's also very young, so he is still kind of in that spongy stage of MMA where you're still taking in so many techniques, you're improving a lot. So I think that Susurkayev has a lot of upside for sure, but he has looked very human in there. A lot of one thing I value a lot about prospects is their fear factor and their aura. That sounds a bit corny, but it's very true. Like it does matter in fights. And Susurkayev, as much as he likes to LARP and emo and pretend that it's going very well for him, he does have rough fights and he has hard times in there. So I think he is a fighter who plays a bit too much, and I think he's gonna get punished one day for it. So speaking of a guy who's gonna punish Susurkayev for playing too much, we have a man who called him out in the next spot, Mr. Damian Pinos. I think that Damian Pinos has a lot of upside in the division he's in, but there are a lot of holes in his game that I do worry about. Obviously, for his pros, the touch of death, he has a serious X factor with that power. Anybody who gets hit clean on the chin by Damian Pinos is going to be in for a rude awakening, guys. He has loads of fear factor, just the look of him, his accent, the way he just calls people out bluntly, and his fighting style. It creates a sense of, a bit of urgency in there. Like, you don't want to be striking with that. We saw Cesar Almeida. He was a glory kickboxer. It's his strong suit to strike, and he was shooting takedowns on Damian Pinos. And Pinos is also a very young fighter, so again, he's in that spongy stage. He's still taking in so much from his training partners, and he's learning a ton. Changes can be made to Damian Pinos' skill set and his tendencies. He's not locked in this mode forever, so he can improve. Some of the cons is that I feel like I do see a bit of a grappling hole with Damian Pinos. We saw when Almeida did shoot, the reaction that Pinos gave him was leaving me a bit worried. I don't know how he's going to look against, high level grapplers. He feels a bit too good to be true. I'll talk about this when I talk about another prospect later, but some of these big knockout artists that just cold everyone, it's just too good to be true, guys. Like they don't always pan out the way we think they will. We have to be responsible when we're talking about these prospects. There's so many good prospects in the UFC right now, but not all these guys are going to be able to make it, sadly. So I think that Damian Pinos will definitely stick around, but I do have a lot of questions about his skill set. His striking bag does seem a little bit limited. He throws a lot of 1-2s and overhands, but other than that, I'm kind of worried. He could get Ian Garried. Like, I know he's not, obviously not in the same division, but there could be a fighter who's technical enough to just go out there and just work a clinic on him and just stick and move. So I do worry that he could be taken advantage of in some matchups, but I think that Damian Pinos is still a noteworthy prospect that definitely deserves to be on this list. Up next, we've got another guy who I think it's just a bit too good to be true, which is Lahayan Douglas. Obviously, he makes it into the top 10, so I do rate him, but I don't think he's the boogeyman that everyone says he is. A lot of people would put him in the higher echelons of this list, but I think he's a quick pumper. If you guys watched that fight with Isaac Thompson, I know he took it on short notice, and it was when he was not training with Bloodline, but I don't think that will ever leave you. He's a fighter who's very good in the first round, but I worry that once he's kind of gone in there and really thrown his big strikes, he does gas out and he does freeze a lot. Isaac Thompson had him frozen. It looked like he was lagging in there, honestly. He really wasn't doing anything on the outside, and I feel like he can be rendered into one of these power punchers who just stands on the outside and looks menacingly at you. Um, but obviously, I have to talk about his pros. He's got the touch of death with the fear factor. Scary fighter to deal with. He's got a first round of hell. If you watch that first round with Cam Teague, I know Cam Teague isn't a very high level fighter, but man, any fighter who has to go out in there and survive that, it's not gonna be fun. And I feel like he showed a very educated boxing approach versus Julian Rosa, where it does leave like some wiggle room for me that he could have improved, and maybe he's not this guy who's just gonna go out there and blow his wad every time, but I really like the way he was just sticking a jab and staying patient. I just worry that if he ever gets into a moment where he has to really throw and go to war with someone, he's going to end up gassing out. So, Lahayan Douglas, I was very hyped on him when he got into the UFC at first, but the more I think about it, the less I kind of think that it's going to happen. So, still a noteworthy prospect, but there's still some guys who I rank a lot higher than him. At number 5, I have Chanko. Now, I was talking about like Chanko with Marauder and some of the guys in a video he's going to be posting soon, but they don't really rate Chanko too highly, and I agree with them in a sense. I feel like Chanko is going to lose to the upper echelons of like experienced fighters who've been in there for a while in the UFC and MMA, but I don't know where I'm very like it's hard. It's hard with Chonko because he's got a very big experience in Muay Thai, and he's got a deep striking bag. He's got like a smart corner, and he does put on a very great pace on almost everyone he fights. But I just worry about his ability to finish fights. And I feel like against a game opponent who's weathered the storm, I feel like he's gonna be able to get chinned. I feel like Bobby Green has a good chance of chinning Chonko. I feel like a lot of fighters in the top 15 are gonna be able to weather that onslaught and just find the right shot on him. But I do think that Chonko deserves to be in this list 100%. I don't think he's a fraud by any like means. I think that on the feet, he's a very tough out for a lot of people in his division. And if you're a grappler, in my opinion, like I know Chonko's wrestling hasn't really been that proven, but if you're out there and you're like a Gamrot and you're like trying to shoot takedowns on this guy constantly and you're failing, you're gonna have a very rough night. So I think that Chonko definitely deserves to be on here, but a lot of question marks, and I think that they're valid question marks. All right, at number 4, I have a controversial pick because especially for me, I picked Alberto Montez, and I probably will pick like Rahiki in that future fight. But I think McMillan is a good prospect. I still think he's a good prospect. I think that his pace is honestly X Factor worthy. Like his pace is something that's very rare in the UFC. Um, I tried to deny him, but the way he went out there and just stayed in Alberto Montez's face for all 3 rounds of that fight, it was honestly eye-opening. His shot selection is very good too. I like the way he rips to the body. I feel like he's always throwing the right punch, like the right follow-up shot. He lands on his opponent so much. Like he put on such a crazy pace and the significant strike record in that fight. Like it's unbelievable. His frame as well for the division. He's a very big guy. He's long. His knees. It's just a scary proposition for a lot of fighters. Even though he's a bit unlikable outside the cage, say whatever you will, guys. In that cage, he's a very scary fighter to deal with. His recovery is also fantastic. I'm gonna mention his cons now. His getting dropped is never cool in MMA. Regardless of how good your recovery is, getting dropped is never something that, I'm never just going to see that and ignore it. Obviously, it's a red flag that, some fighters might be able to put his lights out, but I honestly think that, McMillan might just be one of these guys who gets dropped and just gets back up or gets dropped and survives. I don't think he's going to go out cold. It's just a feeling I have about him. I feel like he has like this weird plot armor. He is also like very defensively open. I think if you're good enough on the feet to out technically do McMillan over a decision, I think that's probably how people are going to beat him. People are just going to be able to keep pinging him at range, landing on the feet, hurting him when like you can hurt him, holding up against the fence. I feel like you're going to have to take him out of that war to beat him. And I don't think anyone who's going to try and go in there and grit on their mouthpiece is going to get through McMillan. Except for maybe one guy. And that guy is the guy I'm going to talk about next. Freaky Rahiki, guys. I was talking about this with a few people on the video that's going to be posted soon. But, bro, Freaky Rahiki is good, guys. The thing about Rahiki is that even though he's been dropped and, he was down to Malumba on the Contender series, he's so good at not only being a technical striker, but when he grits down and goes to war with you, he stays technical. He doesn't abandon anything. Like I love the way that he goes in there and he throws these extended combinations. He's banging in the pocket with people, but it's so clean and it's very educated. I think he's a very intelligent fighter on the feet. I think he's got great recovery. As soon as he got dropped by Malumba, he's instantly on the defensive. He's rolling. He's staying aware. The ref's telling him to stay defensive, and he's doing exactly that. I think that even with the grappling, the way he was reversing Harry, I don't know if it was Harry or George, the Hardwick brother that's in the UFC. He was reversing him on the ground. It was really impressive to see. Now the chin is definitely a question. We don't know if one day he's just gonna get cracked and go out cold, but I think that he's got the tools to be one of the best prospects, not only from the Dana White's Contender series, season 9, but also one of the best prospects in his division, guys. I think he's very impressive. So I'm probably gonna pick him to beat Tommy McMillan. I know I don't want to underrate McMillan again. I'll regret it so badly if I do, because like my initial instinct was to pick Tommy, but I think that Rahiki might get him, guys. At number 2, I've got a guy who I see a lot of people not bring him up, but Murtaza Ali went out there and he twisted up what's his name? The dude who Gene Silva fought. Melsik Bagdasaryan. He went out there and he twisted up Melsik Bagdasaryan into a pretzel, guys. A submission I'd never seen before. It was a weird twister variant. And as noted in his other fights, he's dangerous everywhere on the ground and on the feet. He's a natural finisher. He's got a very educated hands. I liked his jab. I'm pretty sure he dropped his opponent with a jab on the Contender series. And he's got a very strange grappling offense. You don't only worry about the position, but the submissions there as well. A lot of these Russian, Chechen fighters, they're so reliant on the position and they can't really finish fights on the ground. Where Murtazali is the complete opposite of that. I think he's finished every single one of his wins. So, like, that's what I'm saying. I honestly don't think he has any known weaknesses, which leads into his cons, which is his record is a bit questionable. He has a lot of amateur experience as well, but I don't know if I've really seen him tested enough by his opponents. But that's just a question that I can't really put that on him. I think stylistically, he's a very interesting matchup for a lot of fighters in that division, and I think he's gonna give a lot of people hell, guys. I think he's the answer to a lot of people. Definitely deserves to be on this list. And as for my number one prospect for Dana White's Contender Series Season 9, we have PQD. Michael Oliveira, guys. Michael Oliveira is scary, in a way that many fighters aren't. The military aura is crazy. He's danger, like really. Like he's got a serious fear factor. You could tell even in the Oban Elliott fight. Like Oban Elliott is a good fighter, and he was scared in there with Michael Oliveira. He can sleep you like with a jab, like he did to Oban, or he can beat you up for 3 rounds. He can beat you up for 2 rounds. He just keeps landing on you with these vicious shots, and his onslaught doesn't seem to stop. The boxing combinations are just relentless. His frame for his division is unheard of. He's part of, again, I've said it over and over again, guys. The 170-pound division, they have this wave of mutants right now, and he's honestly one of the front runners like that I see. I think that this guy has potential to be champion, potential to be top 5 one day. The only questions are obviously, you see a big strong guy like this. It's cardio and it's grappling. Those are the only questions I really have about Michael Oliveira's skill set. But I'm honestly very confident in Michael Oliveira going forward and being a future contender. I feel like he's the real Ateba Gautier, the real Damian Pinos. He's that real scary guy who's just gonna go out there and sleep everyone with that dangerous X factor. That knockout power, because he really does have the touch of death. Like I've never seen someone go down to a job like the way that, other than maybe like Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gane, which I predicted. Um, but yeah, this is a scary result, guys. Seeing Oban Elliott go out like that, I think that this Oliveira guy is gonna put shockwaves through the division. So let me know what you guys think of my ranking. Is there any prospects that I missed? There's always gonna be a ton of prospects that I wish I could have mentioned. JPL, I didn't really think he did that well against Sok Hong Ko. I thought Ko won that fight, but I think he's a noteworthy prospect. Manuel Sosa would have been on this list, but with his last fight that just happened this weekend, I've kind of lost a little confidence in him. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is there anyone I missed? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.